Really do want to thank you all for taking the time, making the effort to join us in this 6-week journey to Philippi. So many of you have joined in new groups, existing groups. AJ, I'm really thrilled at what God is going to be doing over these next 6 weeks.
Amen.
Central, finally, on the way to Philippi. Our intention, of course, to learn and to grow in our faith. But this gets me thinking, has got me thinking about these two television programs, CSI and NCIS, where investigators use forensic science, looking at scientific evidence to prove a case, either of innocence or of guilt. And so this first study that we're going to be looking at in the book of Philippians is going to enable you to answer a question, a very, very important question. You will be able to know for sure, are you really a true believer? This letter of Philippians was, of course, written by the Apostle Paul, alongside of him Timothy, and written to the saints in Philippi. This little city was on a very important pathway, a gateway from the west, in fact, through to the east. It was known as the Ignatian Way, a highway that many, many people traveled. It was an old city that was re-established after Antony and Caesar Augustus had reconquered the city, and founded largely by a bunch of veteran soldiers who settled in the area. The book was written to this church in AD 62, but Paul had established the church in AD 48, round about 48 to 51. Three significant converts of this congregation we're told about in Acts chapter 16. There is Lydia, the businesswoman who was a seller of purple. There was the slave girl converted from someone who was demon-possessed. And then, of course, the well-known story of the Philippian jailer. Much that we can glean from this particular book about our own faith today.
And as you know, we're going to be looking at the first 11 verses of chapter 1. And one of the really big things that comes through is Paul's tremendous emotion for these Philippian believers. In verse 8 it actually says that he longs for them with the affections of Jesus Christ. And he says that he is confident that God, who began a good work in them, will bring it to completion. And this must have been so encouraging for these believers, because here they are in this pagan city as a small community of faith. Paul, the apostle who planted the church, is now in jail, and later on you'll see that there were false teachers coming in and talking heresy. And so I'm sure these Christians, these young believers, were starting to wonder about their faith and the future of Christianity, maybe starting to have some doubts. And Paul reassures them that he who began a good work in you will bring it to completion. And so Paul wasn't excited that these were perfect people in every way, but he was excited because he could see evidence or marks of grace, construction signs. And so as you go through this passage in your group, won't you look for those same marks of grace in your life and delight together in the goodness of God?